Oh.
Whoo! Non-stop Spider-Man. Okay, so initially when I was setting up our show order, I was gonna have this book after Amazing Spider-Man, but I didn't want to go into this book upset. So I put it at the beginning.
Spoiler.
This say what?
Spoiler.
Alert. Yeah, for sure. This book is a breath of fresh air in the sense of I feel like, you could pick this book up not having read any Spider-Man and being like, whoa, this is a new story. This is a new story. It's a fresh idea. And it doesn't take long for you to understand what the hell's going on in the book. And I feel like that's a direct commentary to where Amazing Spider-Man is currently. I will just say that right now. So if you're wanting to know if Spider-Man's a good a character that you like a lot, and you're currently reading ASM and you want to watch that video is coming up next. But I feel like this is I know it's unintentional, but it feels like a direct rebuke of Amazing Spider-Man, because it literally is nonstop, but it sets the tone of the story. It sets what's going on in the story fairly quickly within the book, but it doesn't feel rushed. When they initially announced nonstop, I was like, oh, so this is just going to be action and there's no deposition, there's no story. And that can be any further from the truth. Like, this has a story. I think for me, at the end of the book, it made me wanting more. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Yeah. I want to see where this goes. And essentially what we have is Spidey is fighting a gang. I think they're drug dealers, if I'm not mistaken. And they're not beating the shit out of him, but they're keeping him on his toes.
They've got a lot of tech used against him. Big
time. And so, he's able to do the Spidey thing and figure it out on his, while, in the motions, he's figuring it out. And then in the middle of the book, we find out that, we cut back to an earlier scene about one of his friends or not friends, but associate or acquaintances who passed away, who was really smart. He was in school. He was taking a bunch of classes, and he died of a drug overdose. And it was completely out of character for this character. And so there's this mystery building in this book of Peter trying to figure out, well, why did this kid who is like a super genius overdose on a drug that, he's never touched a drug before in his life, right? And what we come to find out is there's this drug called, I want to say it's called A-list or something like that. Or
something with an A in it.
Yeah. And he basically, this drug is found in his system, and he's like, why the hell is this here? And Spidey basically is connecting the dots while he's fighting this tech gang. And it looks like they're after the same thing, or they're trying to cover up. This is where it was only confusing for me. Is like, I feel like the gang was trying to cover up the usage of this drug. And it feels like they're the supplier, if anything. And he's fighting this group, and he ends up getting a call from one of his friends, and the friend has basically said, hey, by the way, I just overdosed on A. And he's like, what the fuck? Like, why are you taking this drug? And so he goes and sprints over to his friend's, place. The friend doesn't know he's Spider-Man, and he shows up essentially, and she's passed out, basically about to die, and he injects her with like some adrenaline, and she wakes up, and they're getting bombarded by like missiles and by this group who's following him, because they want to have the notoriety of being able to kill Spider-Man. And so when he saves her, she's like, who the hell are you? And he's like, I'm Spider-Man. I'm here to save you, but don't worry about that. And she's like, awesome. Who am I? And so the issue ends with his friend essentially losing her memory because she overdosed on this drug. So Peter's got all these different mysteries he needs to solve within this first issue. It was jam-packed. It had action, it had writing, it had a story, and it made the reason why I say this, is because my distaste for Amazing Spider-Man right now, this was a breath of fresh air, in my opinion. I know that you read it and you were kind of like, I don't know what the fuck's going on in here, but you're not a big Spider-Man fan, so there might not be anything here for you. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not a big Spider-Man fan. I kind of grazed over this issue a little bit, and the art really turned me off. I'll probably need to go back and just give it a proper read, but I'm not a good judge of a Spider-Man book though, because I'm not a big Spider-Man fan.
Gotcha. And see, for me, it's the opposite. I absolutely loved the art in this book. I felt like it felt stretched, and it felt like you were moving, like you were being pulled in certain directions in this book. And I feel like that was done on purpose. I felt like it was motion heavy within the drawing. Like you were just going all over the place. And Spider-Man isn't a square, Maddie. You're a fool.
He does look like a 13-year-old, and that is a massive, massive turn.
I don't think he looks like a 13-year-old. He looks like he's in college.
He looks like he's 13. Just got his pimple. Hate it.
Either way, I enjoyed it. I thought the artwork was fantastic. Overall, it's a breath of fresh air, and the reason why it's a breath of fresh air is because this book sucks. And I don't like saying that. It pains me. And you know what? This issue actually doesn't suck, and that's why I'm upset.
Doesn't make any sense, but all right.
Well, let's break it down. So this is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Amazing Spider-Man and Nonstop Spider-Man in the same video. And so the reason why I have such issue with this book is because, again, Nick Spencer has no regard for what he's written in the past 60 issues. He has no regard for it. Look at this. You look at the cover. New costume, new job, new Spider era begins here. The first page lets you down on that promise right there. The first page, you see Kindred. Again, if you've never picked up a Nick Spencer Spider-Man book until issue 61, you have no fucking clue who this guy is on the first page. It's fucking Kindred. And as a first-time reader, you're like, oh, well, I guess we'll see him later. Probably not. You probably won't. You'll probably never even learn his fucking name when this book ends, right? And, oh my God, I'm so hot. Like, I'm... And I don't want to be, because we try really hard on this show to not dog books, like to not badmouth books. But fuck, man, like, this is garbage. It's garbage. And it's upsetting to say that. I don't want to knock a writer, because this is his work. This is his hard work. But like, dude, no acknowledgement of the past 60 issues outside of the first page. And then suddenly Peter Parker has a new job, a new suit. And if I'm reading this, I'm like, wait, what? How? Where did? Huh? Right? And essentially this. So he gets. Now I will say this. Honestly, I'm here for it. Yeah, right, Maddie. Here, okay. He gets the suit from Jonah of the Daily Bugle. He gets the suit because instead of Jonah wants to make Spider-Man a social media experiment. Essentially, the suit has a VR capability that if someone subscribes to the service, they can see what Spider-Man sees when he fights crime. So, yep. And he live streams, the suit live streams when he fights crime. And people are subscribing and buying into this idea. So Jonah's making money off of Spider-Man. Right? Great. Mm-hmm. Fun. Awesome. On the top of this, we've got, and this is how this book is so discombobulated. So the Kingpin is looking for these tablets to put together to control something. And Boomerang, who was in the previous issues prior to the Kindred Sin Eater saga has this ability to see where these tablets are, and so he has one of them. And so Kingpin puts a hit out on him, right? I can already tell, like, you're like, wait, how do I connect that dot? Fuck, I don't know. And so there's that part of this book, and like I'm even confused. Like it's so out of whack. In my mind, I'm like, well, what happened to Sin Eater? What happened to Kindred? No. We're not talking about that. We're starting this new story arc. Hey, do you know what it's called? We don't either. Not until May, when there's a giant size issue ending the arc. That's how it's just so. It's whack. It's so whack. And like the action in this book was badass. I think the idea of the suit, I think it's a cool idea, but it's not Spider-Man. It doesn't feel like Spider-Man, and God, I sound like such a rube. Like I sound like a guy that's like, just give me my classic comic books. But I don't feel like that's even like, it's just not, it just doesn't feel like Spider-Man. It feels like Nick Spencer had a bunch of ideas and he was like, here's how I'm going to execute it. You see these darts? Wow. And he just threw them at a board and he's like, all right, we're going to go like this and just follow a weird path. And it doesn't make any sense to me. And this issue, if you had not had the first page where it showed Kindred and what Spider-Man had been dealing with for the past 60 issues, you know what? This would be a new number one. Totally. But what's frustrating is that you're not acknowledging what you wrote about in the past 25 issues.
Yeah.
And it's like in the last issue, we dealt with Spider-Man having a fake conversation with Kindred and how he was going to resolve his feelings towards Kindred, aka Harry Osborn. And so we're like, all right, here we go. And then we get this issue and it's like, and forget that. We're going to go in a completely different direction where Spider-Man is literally a walking Twitch channel. That was it. That was this book. And then we find out that Kingpin has put a hit on their new pet that they got 20 issues ago. And I can't even remember what that thing is. I was like, wait, what? How they put a hit on this monster pet that they got prior to the Sin Eater issues starting. Yep. And it's like, we haven't seen that guy in 25 issues. And the reason why I say 25 is because there's a bunch of .lr issues that there are things that happened in those books that have not been resolved. All this is it's just a big problem that has not been resolved. And I don't understand, like, again, I think it's Marvel saying, well, people are just going to pick it up because it's Spider-Man. So we're just going to keep going with it. And I'm like, no, like, either have Nick Spencer figure out what he wants to really do, or cancel, restart, and put Donny Cates on Spider-Man. I'm going to say it every time this book comes up.
And now the hidden agenda reveals itself.
Sorry. Either way, Nonstop Spider-Man, good. ASM 61, bad.
Whack.
And I wish I hadn't, whack. Whack! It's whack, dude. And I hate saying that. I don't want to say that. And it frustrates me internally. Like, Spider-Man's my favorite. I don't want to dog anybody. Look, Spider-Man sucks. You know what? This Spider-Man sucks. I will agree with you, Maddie. It's just not good, and it's not fun, and it's draining. And I don't want to drop it from my pull list, but I'm really, really close. I'm really close. Like, and I don't want to say that. I really